There are moments in professional sports that nobody sees coming. Moments that shatter every assumption, every expectation, and every understanding that fans and analysts thought they had about a team, a manager, and a player. The Los Angeles Dodgers have given the baseball world countless unforgettable moments over the years. Championship celebrations, record-breaking performances, and displays of individual brilliance that have left the entire sport in awe. But what happened inside the Dodgers dugout during their highly anticipated matchup against the Cleveland Guardians has produced a moment so raw, so explosive, and so deeply shocking that it has completely overwhelmed every other story in baseball right now. Manager Dave Roberts, one of the most experienced and respected managers in the entire sport, looked directly at Shohei Ohtani, the greatest player on the planet, and delivered words that nobody in that dugout ever expected to hear. "I don't want to see your face, Shohei." And in the moments that followed those devastating words, Roberts reached down, grabbed Ohtani's bat, and threw it away. Ohtani was removed from the game on the spot. The reaction inside that dugout was immediate and volcanic. Ohtani kicked a chair with a fury that sent shockwaves through every single person present. Freeman and Will Smith, two of the most composed and experienced veterans in the entire Dodgers organization, stood completely frozen, shocked beyond words. And then, in a moment that will define this entire season, Ohtani finally broke his silence and confessed the real reason behind his shocking 12 consecutive at-bats without a single hit. To understand how the relationship between Dave Roberts and Shohei Ohtani reached such a devastating and public breaking point, we need to go back several weeks and trace the slow and painful decline that nobody inside the Dodgers organization wanted to acknowledge publicly. When Shohei Ohtani signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he brought with him not just world-class talent, but an almost supernatural level of consistency and mental strength. He had proven in Anaheim and in his early Dodgers career that he was capable of performing at an extraordinary level night after night, regardless of the opposition, the pressure, or the circumstances. He was considered by many to be virtually slump-proof. A player whose combination of physical gifts and mental discipline made prolonged periods of poor form almost impossible. But baseball is a humbling sport, and over the past several weeks, something has clearly gone wrong with Shohei Ohtani at the plate. The warning signs began quietly. A hitless game here, a weak at-bat there. Pitchers who had previously struggled to get Ohtani out began finding ways to neutralize his swing. His timing, which had always been one of his greatest weapons, started looking slightly off. And as the hitless at-bats began to pile up, the concern inside the Dodgers organization began to grow in a way that could no longer be ignored or minimized. By the time the Dodgers faced the Cleveland Guardians, Ohtani had gone 12 consecutive at-bats without recording a single hit. For any ordinary player, a stretch like this would be considered a difficult but manageable rough patch. Something to work through with the coaching staff and emerge from stronger. But Shohei Ohtani is not any ordinary player. He is the face of the franchise. He is the player around whom the entire Dodgers' offensive strategy is built. He is the man whose presence in the lineup sends fear through every opposing pitching staff in the league. When Ohtani struggles, the entire Dodgers offense feels the impact immediately and significantly. And after 12 consecutive hitless at-bats, the pressure on him, on the coaching staff, and on manager Dave Roberts had reached a level that was becoming increasingly difficult to manage professionally and emotionally. The game against the Cleveland Guardians was supposed to be an opportunity for Ohtani to break out of his slump in a highly visible and confidence-restoring way. The Dodgers needed a strong performance from their superstar. The fan base was growing restless. The media was asking difficult questions. And inside the clubhouse, the tension that had been quietly building over the previous weeks was now impossible to ignore. But from his very first at-bat against the Guardians, it was clear that Ohtani's struggles were not going to end easily or quickly. He went to the plate in the first inning and produced another weak at-bat, failing to make solid contact and giving the opposing pitcher an easy out. The crowd at the stadium, which had greeted his appearance with its usual enormous enthusiasm, fell into an uncomfortable and concerned silence as Ohtani trudged back toward the dugout. In the third inning, he came up again with runners on base and a real opportunity to change the game. The entire stadium leaned forward in anticipation. But once again, Ohtani failed to deliver. His swing looked labored. His timing was clearly not right. And as he returned to the dugout for the second time without a hit, the mood inside the Dodgers bench grew noticeably darker and more tense. Manager Dave Roberts was watching all of this with an expression that those who know him well described as deeply troubled. Roberts has always prided himself on his ability to manage personalities, maintain team morale, and find the right moment to make the difficult decisions that championship-level managing sometimes demands. But nobody who was inside that dugout during the Guardians game was fully prepared for the decision he was about to make or the manner in which he was about to make it. It happened in the fifth inning. Ohtani had just returned to the dugout after his third hitless at-bat of the game, extending his scoreless streak to a number that was now impossible for anyone to ignore or excuse. The frustration inside the dugout was palpable. Players were quiet. Coaches avoided eye contact. And then Dave Roberts stood up, walked directly toward Ohtani, and delivered the words that immediately changed everything. "I don't want to see your face, Shohei." The dugout went completely silent. Every player, every coach, every member of the Dodgers support staff who heard those words froze instantly. Roberts did not stop there. He reached down and grabbed Ohtani's bat, the bat that Ohtani had been using throughout this difficult stretch, and threw it aside with a force and deliberateness that communicated his frustration far more powerfully than any additional words could have. He then turned to the rest of his coaching staff and made the official announcement. Ohtani was being removed from the game, effective immediately. What happened next inside that dugout will be talked about for a very long time. Shohei Ohtani, a man who has always carried himself with extraordinary grace and professionalism in the most difficult public moments of his career, reached his breaking point. He turned toward the nearest chair in the dugout and kicked it with a force that sent it clattering loudly across the concrete floor. The sound echoed through the dugout and was clearly audible to those seated in the nearby stands. Players physically stepped back. The shock on the faces of those present was unmistakable and total. Freeman, who has been one of Ohtani's closest teammates since his arrival in Los Angeles, and who is universally regarded as one of the most emotionally intelligent and steady presences in any clubhouse, stood completely frozen. The expression on his face, according to multiple witnesses, was one of pure disbelief. Freeman, who has seen and experienced virtually everything professional baseball has to offer across his long and decorated career, had simply never seen anything like this. Will Smith, the Dodgers' starting catcher and another veteran presence in the clubhouse, was equally speechless. He stood motionless, staring at the scene unfolding in front of him with wide eyes and an expression that communicated his complete inability to process what he was witnessing. But then something happened that nobody in that dugout had anticipated. In the immediate aftermath of his explosive emotional reaction, Shohei Ohtani sat down, took a long and visible breath, and began to speak. What he said in those next several minutes represented the most honest and vulnerable moment of his entire Dodgers career. Ohtani confessed to his manager, his teammates, and everyone present in that dugout the real and deeply personal reason behind his 12 consecutive at-bats without a hit. According to multiple sources who were present during this extraordinary moment, Ohtani revealed that he had been dealing with a physical issue that he had been deliberately concealing from the coaching staff and from management. He had not wanted to appear weak. He had not wanted to give anyone inside the organization a reason to doubt his readiness or his commitment to the team. So instead of coming forward and being honest about what he was experiencing, he had continued to push through it, hoping that the problem would resolve itself naturally before anyone noticed the impact it was having on his performance at the plate. He told Roberts directly that he was sorry. He said that he had made a mistake by not being upfront about his situation from the beginning. He acknowledged that his attempt to hide the problem had not only failed to protect the team but had actually made things significantly worse. And he said that the frustration he had been carrying as a result of trying to perform at his usual standard while dealing with this hidden issue had finally become too heavy to carry alone. The reaction from Dave Roberts was immediate and telling. The fury and frustration that had driven his earlier outburst visibly softened as Ohtani spoke. Those who were present described Roberts as listening with complete and focused attention, his expression shifting from anger to concern to something that looked very much like genuine remorse. When Ohtani finished speaking, Roberts did not respond with more anger. He sat down beside his superstar and spoke to him quietly and directly for several minutes in a conversation that those nearby described as deeply human and completely unlike the confrontation that had preceded it. Roberts later addressed the media with carefully chosen words. He confirmed that Ohtani had been removed from the game and that the decision was made in the best interest of both the player and the team. He declined to go into specific detail about the physical issue Ohtani had disclosed, stating that player health information was private and would be handled appropriately by the organization's medical staff. But Roberts also said something that clearly came from a place of genuine feeling. He said that Shohei Ohtani is not just a great baseball player. He said Ohtani is a great human being. And he said that the conversation they had in that dugout today reminded him of exactly why he is so proud to manage him. Freeman spoke to reporters after the game with a quiet intensity that made every word land with enormous weight. He said that what he witnessed in that dugout today was something he would carry with him for the rest of his career. He spoke about Ohtani's honesty in that moment and said that the courage it takes to admit vulnerability in front of your teammates, in front of your manager, and in the middle of a professional baseball game is something that very few people are truly capable of. Freeman said that his respect for Ohtani, which was already at the highest level possible, grew even further in those moments inside the dugout. He said the team would rally around their superstar completely and without hesitation. Will Smith echoed those sentiments with equal conviction. He said that the Dodgers are a family, and that families support each other through the most difficult moments. He said Ohtani does not need to carry anything alone, and that every single player in that clubhouse is ready to stand beside him as he works through this challenge and returns to the form that makes him the most feared hitter in all of baseball. The Dodgers organization has since confirmed that Ohtani will undergo a full medical evaluation in the coming days. The results of that evaluation will determine his availability for upcoming games and will shape the team's roster decisions going forward. Management has made clear that Ohtani's health and well-being are the absolute top priority, above wins, above standings, and above everything else. General Manager Brandon Gomez released a brief but meaningful statement affirming the organization's complete support for Ohtani and expressing confidence that he will return stronger than ever. The baseball world is now watching and waiting. The image of Ohtani kicking that chair, of Roberts throwing aside his bat, of Freeman and Smith standing frozen in disbelief, has already become one of the defining images of this baseball season. But perhaps more powerful than any of those images is the image of Shohei Ohtani sitting down in that dugout, taking a breath, and finding the courage to tell the truth. Because in the end, that moment of honesty may prove to be more important than any hit he could ever have produced at the plate. Thank you for watching. This story is continuing to develop and new details are emerging with every passing hour. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think Dave Roberts went too far? Or was this exactly the wake-up call that Ohtani needed? Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a single update on this story and all the latest breaking Dodgers and MLB news.